Welcome to the Andrew D'Angelo podcast.
Constant Constance. Each week, Andrew, renowned jazz saxophonist and brain cancer survivor, invites us to look at the many worlds of his guests, with conversations that cover all the arts, human resilience, a little bit of politics, and a lot of humour.
You can't fail to have a fantastic time.
Geared up here. All right, you ready to illuminate? There we go.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Constant Constance. I'm sitting here today with a very talented and, amazing musician. Oh, that's funny. It's your mom.
Oh, that's funny.
Good timing, Susanna. Well, I actually had asked her if she would send me a question to ask you that would embarrass you, and she's refusing to. She's refusing to. So.
She should do it. She should do it.
Right? You should text her.
I'll text her right. Yeah, I'll text her right now.
You should text her and say, "Come on, Mom."
I'll say, "I'm okay with embarrassing questions."
I mean, she's got to have something in that arsenal of hers that could embarrass you.
Let's see.
All right.
We'll see.
Right. So anyway, Drummond is the son of trumpet player and band leader, composer Dave Douglas. Well, you're the stepson, actually.
Yep.
And that's how I met Drummond. Drummond's mother and stepfather, Dave Douglas, and mother, Susanna, were going out of town, and they asked me if I could come up. And I used the word babysit just for fun, but I know it wasn't.
Well, it was. I mean, it kind of literally was. I was like, what? I couldn't cook. I would have died if I was at that house alone. So
I would have died. Like, maybe some bear from the woods would have.
Yeah, right.
So I've known Drummond since I think you were 7 or 8 or something like this. And it's just one of those things where, I was talking to my nephew Storm. Have you and Storm met? I don't know if you have.
I think we've met twice. It was like kind of brief, but I remember. I think actually one time might have even been at your house one time.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
And Storm's probably co-producing this. I mean, I've been bringing him up on every episode, but he's like, "You should have Drummond on, man." And just to break it up. I mean, I could have Dave on, or like I had Maya Lederer, Jeff Lederer's daughter, on. She's an amazing chef, although she says she's a cook, but chef. And, just to get a different perspective on the world. Mm-hmm. And anyway, Drummond's music is fantastic. And I just remember, babysitting, but I remember coming up to Croton to hang out with you, and it was more like a party, I would say. Even though you were a little kid, it was like party sitting. I mean, we weren't drinking and smoking or anything like that, but
yeah, it wasn't a real party, but no.
But you were always down. If I said, "Hey, you want to go to the pool?" You're like, "Yeah." "Hey, you want to play with Finley, your dog? God rest her soul. You want to play with the dog in the yard?" "Yeah." "You want to?" I don't know.
What else is there to do out there? You want to do anything? Yeah, I would love to do anything.
Not true for every kid. Okay, I have met some children, including maybe even one of my nephews, who are not in the mood to have that kind of fun. So it's your enthusiasm is memorable. But why don't you tell us? I mean, what's going on in your life? What have you been up to? What's the pandemic? All that. What's happening?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just a professional video game player at this point. No, I've been working on. So I'm an audio engineer and I'm a composer. And so we've been working. I have a production company called Some Point Sound that was formed with me and a buddy of mine in college. So we do production gigs. We're on set, holding the mics for the actors, laving them up and everything. And then we do post mixing. And so that includes Foley, sound design, and just general mixing of the film. And so we've been doing a lot of that. It's kind of like what we've been doing for work. And I love it. I'm like, it's a whole new world for me. I've been doing it for about a year now, a year and a half, maybe. This is post, that is. Like, I've been doing production sound for like 2-3 years now. But like I'm really enjoying post, but it's kind of all in aims to be scoring these films and be scoring video games as well. We've scored a couple games. It's kind of like the main focus for me, and that's what I've been doing. When COVID first hit, we were kind of and my partner, his name is Ethan. We were kind of in a transitional period. We were getting a studio in the works to get a studio and everything, and then we got the studio midway through pandemic, but COVID hit and we were out of work, production work, for like, 5 months, I'd say 3-4 months. And then it started picking up again, and I was like nervous and everything, but I mean, the whole landscape of the being on set had changed with, like, you got the doctors on set and someone being like, hey, that's 5 feet, not 6, spread out, and just the protocol had changed. So it was an interesting change. But when that happened, like when we had this dead 4 months, 5 months or whatever, I was left alone to my devices to just sit and think, me and Ethan, that is, in the studio, like, what do we do? One, how do we make money to afford this space or to continue affording this space? And then two, how can I continue to grow as an artist, to grow as an artist and be like tackling this dream head on, but like with money kind of there as something that's like a necessity of this business. So it's like the artistry, the money, and also just generally surviving and eating. Those are the 3 things that was swirling through my head for my business for those 4 or 5 months of pandemic. I'm scared it's going to happen again, but I think I'll be a little bit more prepared this time.
It's interesting because I've spoken, also had people on the podcast who are in my generation, of course. And one of my friends, one of my guests, said that he was talking to his mom because he said, Mom, yeah, we're not on tour. I've lost my work. This is somebody who's on the road over half the year. And his mom said, well, maybe you should work for Uber or get another job. And I was like, Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right, side hustle is real.
Mom, I love you. My mom said something similar, but it's like, I don't think any generation is able to comprehend what we're going through. Also, Drummond, you were talking about you're doing film work and engineering, and like you said, you're doing a lot of post-production, and you're doing with Ethan. Can we just say Ethan's full name so we can?
Yeah, Ethan Gustafson. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you said it at the beginning. I just want to make sure we get that in there. And then it seems as though there's a lot of conversation going around about how terrible musicians are at presenting themselves. So during the pandemic, a lot of people are doing live streams, or they're doing podcasting, and I am by no means perfect, but it was impressively not great how many musicians did not have their shit together. Right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like, as an introduction to say what you do.
What do you mean?
Like, do you mean like they're bad at introducing themselves in relation to like their work, and like, or you mean in general? Like,
I just mean when somebody's doing a live stream or they're doing a Instagram live or something, and they're dressed in their pajamas, or something, right. Like they're not presenting themselves well, or their audio is terrible. Have you ever had one of those? You have to turn the shit up all the way because you can't hear them, or vice versa, which happened to me, where it was
the guy playing guitar. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. And so it's cool that you're getting into, recording engineer vibe. Is that, do you see that as are you going to be doing this more, or do you still want to be a stage performer, or, what is it that you want to be doing?
I never really wanted to be a stage performer. I think that would be a nice side thing, like every once in a while, if people really enjoyed what I was doing, to just be able to go out and do something like that. But it was never that thing for me. That thing, that addicting thing, the thing that I loved was the creation process of writing music. And then later I learned to find similarities between that and sitting down and mixing. And so, yeah, I think I think the mixing stuff, I'm hoping I can do this for the rest of my life. I love it that much. And it's always so interesting. It's like, but I'm also 25, so I could get to 30 and be like, this all sucks. I don't know. I'm gonna be a skateboarder or something.
Right.
But
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I think about this a lot, honestly. It's about the longevity of what I do, because like I want to be doing things that I want to do for the rest of my life right now. One, so I can get better at them, but two, so that I don't have to get this side gig with Uber or work at this restaurant, because I just want to be on my own time. You know, that's a pretty important thing for me. And I think if I can keep with mixing and keep writing music, like I'll be able to do that on my own watch.
I was speaking to, give me a second to remember who I was speaking to, but what I remember is I was talking about how I was having you on the podcast and about the fact that you have, I don't know if you've actually had anything in a video game, but video game music is definitely something that you're into. And yeah. This young man, what the hell was it? Said, he goes, it was my nephew Enzo. He said, yeah, video game music is deep, like way better than most people give it credit for. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I started listening to video game music like as video game music, like pretty young, and it was like this kind of intertwining of like my love for video games, but also my love for not being able to play video games because I couldn't really play them that much. I wasn't allowed. I had like 30 minutes of screen time. So that kind of made me like, oh, I gotta play some freaking games. These are fun. This is this thing I can't do and I'm enjoying it. So, and I would listen to the music a lot. But I think the thing that video game music is so different from listening to a song that someone has created with the purpose of listening to that song. Most of the time when you're listening to a song in a video game, it's kind of like the literal world that you're playing in and the song are kind of combined and they're in one. So it's like you're experiencing the song, you're living in the world, in the song, and that song is helping bring that world kind of to a realer place. So the point of the songs most often aren't to be a banger or even to have an arc that looks like this, beginning, middle, and end. A lot of times it's kind of to keep you there. And a lot of the times it can be trance-like because however many worlds you're walking through or any scenarios in any video games, kind of have to be okay to listen to one song if you're in an area for a long time. So there's a lot, for me, there's a lot to play with. It's like world building, and it's more about world building than it is about song building in a weird way. It's like the song has to serve the world of the game, and if there's a story or whatever's going on, has to serve that more than it needs to be a good song, which is why I love it. And like, there's so many games that I played where it's like, I'll hear 2 seconds of a song and I'll be transported to Lavender Town and Pokemon. And I'll be like, oh yeah, the graveyard. And I'll know everything about it. And I'll feel like I felt when I played the game. That's the coolest thing to me. It's like, it's a little time capsule. You feel like you were, when you were doing this thing in some video game, relaxing, chilling or whatever. But yeah, I think it's really deep. And I do think that it's kind of seen as this bleeps and bloops thing. And I love bleeps and bloops music, 8-bit or chiptune too, but it too often does video game music get pigeonholed into this childlike thing. But it's already like every kid is listening to video game music, you know?
I mean, listening to it without playing the game? Is that what you mean?
Passively. No, I mean passively.
Right, okay.
Where it's there. That's another thing, is that it's kind of passive listening, you know?
Well, there's the First Zelda. I don't know if you've ever played the First Zelda. It had some pretty cool music. Wasn't it a Japanese composer? Or
I believe that's
artist?
Koji Kondo.
Yeah.
But I got to look that up so I don't sound like an idiot if it's not.
I know, and everybody fact checks everything these days, so you might as well look it up.
Yeah.
But
it was Koji Kondo.
And then I remember I played Mario Kart, but I had that Nintendo with Mario's World with Luigi. What was it called?
New Super Mario Bros. Maybe, or Mario Odyssey.
Something
where side-scrolling game where it's like Mario and Luigi jumping up and down.
Correct. And,
yeah, that's New Super Mario.
But I'll never, for some reason, it's embedded in my mind. The night I beat the game, and it was all of a sudden 6:30 in the morning, and so I had been listening to those sounds. You know, I oddly enough something like this, and
Yeah.
and the ba-ding, right? I mean, it's when you start thinking about how you're kind of composing as you're playing the video game, if you want to go that way, you know, if you're into that kind of thing. But it's I don't know. I'm going to make a bold statement, but I'm just so tired of hearing the same shit and giant steps. And people have been talking about this on my show, or, you know, the same jazz tunes over and over and over. They're great. There's nothing wrong with them. But I really want, part of the reason I asked you to be on instead of Dave Douglas is because I want to know, what are we looking at? What is, like, okay, I'm cool with hearing people play jazz standards until the end of time. That's fine. Or Beethoven or Bach. But there's got to be something to do besides that. Like compositionally, performing.
Surprisingly, there's not. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, so that's Drummond right there, folks. And he was like that when he was 7, just a sarcastic little shit, but funny. So, I mean, you know, if somebody's listening to or watching this, go ahead and be bold yourself. What's your projection for the future of music, post-pandemic, you know, whatever, just put it out there.
Before I answer that with something, I do want to actually go back to, you're saying like, you're okay with listening to these standards being played a million different ways, a million different times, but you want something new. And just because we're on the video game, because we're talking about that and kind of passive listening, it's kind of weird too, because like some people like will play one game a ton and they'll have the music of that game stuck in their head forever. But like for me, I play this game Smash Bros. I live with my cousins, and me and my cousin run it every night, and you know, it's a thing. But I think I've given that music too much. I think I've given it too much time, because like think of all the music that I could be listening to and the amount of times that I've been sitting listening to just selecting characters. It's like almost, it's like kind of it's not cool. I should be listening to something else. I've dedicated too much time to that. But anyways, the future of music is, what do I think the future of music is? Well, I can maybe answer for what the genres that I really love and listen to. But outside of that, I don't know. But I do think classic sounds, like video game sounds, are going to be they're going to come back. Not come back. I think they've already been here. But there's like this weird thing that I've noticed, that like when really young kids listen to 8-bit music, they have this feeling of nostalgia for something that they weren't alive for, this period in gaming history where they were literally using 8-bit sounds because that was what you could do. But they hear this music, they hear these notes, and or these sounds, and they have this weird association with video games, 1, and 2, they have this nostalgia for an older game. And I think that power of nostalgia, and within the sonic sphere, I think that's a very powerful tool. And so I think you're going to hear more what we would think of as older video game bleeps and bloop sounds kind of popping up in music. And like there's one of my favorite artists who I would suggest anybody listening to this should listen to. His name is Maxo, Maxo, Chord Slayer Maxo. Sometimes he goes by that, but he is a chiptune artist. I think he's going now under like, what is it? Like chip fusion. What is it called? There's a new term that's going around for like the genre of music that he's making, but I think he is a very good person to check out. I think everything's gonna be really fast, not fast in terms of like tempo wise, but like shorter vignettes of pieces, because like, you know, people's attention spans are shrinking. Mine is definitely the shrinkiest of attention spans ever, so I'll click 30 seconds of a YouTube video and I'll hit next. I think songs in general shrink down, probably albums too. I think not as many people are listening to albums now, but hopefully I'm wrong about that.
Let me kind of interject there, Drum.
Yeah.
It's interesting, one, that you said short attention spans, and yet you're making these very long and insightful statements. So that's interesting. Second of all, you're on a podcast, which some of my interviews have been 2.5 hours, something like that. Most of them have been about an hour. And then one of the most, if not the most popular podcast, the Joe Rogan, is 3 hours typically. So I've also asked my peers and musician friends, name the third song on any record. Off the top of your head, you can't look at Google, name the third song on any record. And other than a few super nerds, nobody can do it. And I said, right. And then when was the last time you listened to an entire record, beginning to end, with enjoyment, not because you had to? I've done that for this podcast where I wanted to hear somebody's record, so I'd be prepared. So I listened from beginning to end as research. It's not a generational thing. It's just, I think, I wouldn't say that an album is dead, but there's definitely seems to be a way to, your mom's texted me twice since we've been talking. I'm going to look, did she text you?
No, actually, did she? Yeah, she sent me a heart.
All right, so she sent it to me finally. All right,
Oh,
this
boy.
is from Drummond's mother. Oh my God, it's epically long. So chapter 1, I'm such a lame mother. Oh, Susanna.
Don't start it like that, Mom.
Trouble focusing. Okay, those are our first two things. All right. And we were
that's
just
funny. Right on cue with this.
right on
tension.
cue. And when he was little, met a new adult, he used to ask either what was the scariest thing that ever happened to them or what was the saddest thing that happened to them. I believe
That's
someone
true.
shared she's texting me.
I know what she's getting at, and that's a good one for her to bring up. Yeah, I actually did do this thing, and I don't know why I did this. I think it has to do with the fact that when I was young, I kind of moved a bit, and in order to like meet friends, I would just, some sort of question starters or whatever, like conversation starters. But I would always ask like so many people from this, like in this weird window of my life, like I feel like from 5 to 7, I would meet a person. I was like, so what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? What's the saddest thing that's ever happened to you? Just those. And I never thought anything bad would come out of it. Like saddest, I don't think I would actually ask saddest. I think that's a little intense. I think definitely scariest I would ask. And then one time I was in Kentucky and I asked this girl, we were at a bar. Sitting at a bar. I was too young. And she was a little older and I was with my family. I was like, so what's the scariest thing that ever happened to you? She lifts up her hand and she's missing 2 fingers.
Oh, geez.
And
wow.
I was like, and this is the most intense. She hadn't said a word, and then this is going to be the most intense response I'd ever gotten if we start off like this. And she said she was tying her shoes on an escalator.
Wow.
And the escalator got her fingers, and she had to rip them out. And I never asked that question again. I was like, oh. So I learned that day, maybe that's not a good move. I mean, it was very interesting. She was kind and she told me all about it. Maybe I should do it more, actually.
I mean, to be honest, it helps validate that whole, I don't know if your parents were like this, and we should give a shout out to your dad, Luis, who is an amazing ballet dancer and really good man. I actually checked out one of his pieces on Facebook before this, and I was like, oh yeah, forgot how good he is. He's kind of choreographing more than he is dancing now, right?
Yeah, he's the director of the Lexington Ballet, and if you guys want to check it out, you can go to lexingtonballet.org and check out the Nutcracker coming out soon. It's like
your dad
online. Yeah.
Did he choreographed it or is he in it or both?
No, he choreographed the whole thing, and it was shot by my cousin and my brother helped out with the filming and everything, a family affair.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, how do you re-choreograph the Nutcracker? I mean, it's just
the thing is, it's like because he's been the director of this ballet for so long and he's always in ballet. It's like every year's the Nutcracker, so I actually don't even know if it's like set in stone choreo and then he changes a couple things here and there, or if it's just like, all right, same as last year, hit it.
It'd be kind of a cool question to ask. I'd love stuff like that, which I can back relate to jazz standards, where if you're going to do jazz standards, at least do them differently than the last 100 people that I saw do them. Please.
But some people don't got different in them.
Please, man, just do it a little different,
And And sort of the same thing when you've been up until 6 a.m. and you beat that game, and you're listening to the same music. And something that I get a lot of joy out of is the sound design aspect to games specifically. Games is a whole other world, sound design wise, because you're placing literal objects and their sounds within these fake environments. But that's like the sound design creation is the thing that I honestly love so much. And we got to Some Point Sound, me and Ethan, we got to do this game. It was completely by luck that I found this game, and it was just in this period where I was obsessively messaging everybody, and so I'm walking in Croton of all places, and I see this shop with these dudes in there running around with huge headsets on. And I'm like, what is this? Okay, so I email them right away and say, hey, audio, question mark. And they're like, oh, we're looking for someone. We got to do an interview with them, and we got the gig. And it's this huge space that is dedicated to virtual reality, but they're using their own technology. So it's not like cameras are watching you. I don't know if you've ever played virtual reality. It's pretty crazy.
I have not.
You should try it. It's pretty nuts.
Okay.
But so, you put the goggles in and it's like, you're in the Matrix type shit. But, and they're using magnetic like waves to track you. So like what Ethan and I got to do is we wrote the whole score for this whole game, this whole experience. And we did all the sound design, and this is all in VR. So like, I had been like researching this for like 2 years before having gotten this gig, but it was so much fun because of placing all these sounds in the actual location. These mono sources are coming from a mono source that you're staring at in virtual reality, and you got to make sure that it sounds like it would sound in reality. It's like virtual reality, literally. And it's weird because in this game format that is virtual reality, I notice a lot of people are trying to really recreate reality. But I think the fun thing is when you're completely like, oh, you're in reality, but imagine if none of this shit worked like this, and that sounds over here and this sounds over here and all that stuff. But yeah, the sound design in VR, so much fun. And yeah, this one project was one of the coolest things I got to work on in 2020. It's called The Edge VR, and it was set to release the week COVID shut everything down. So it was like, so now we're on hold until, they can kind of really open up the facility. But it was like, here we go, grand opening. Oh, never mind. We're like,
okay, that just sounds like an amazing project. But you probably know that everybody experienced some form of this.
yeah. So and then boom.
Yeah, I mean, I've had numerous tours canceled, blah blah blah. We all have our stories, but one thing, let me geek out for a minute. When you said you scored the music for this VR video game. What are you writing? Are you notating, or how do you score something like that?
It depends on per composition, I guess. And this was kind of interesting because I was working with Ethan. We're collaborating on this music. But usually how it starts off, I have to have my guitar in hand. Like, that's just how I think about notes and everything. And if I need to figure something out, I'll do it there. And then I guess it was kind of about, we did a lot of listening to references so that we could find the vibe, because it's a space game, but you don't want to be Halo and you don't want to be this other game, and you want to be somewhere in between. And you want to like learn from what you got, you don't want to just spit out old garbage that everyone else has done before. So I was trying to do something new and something a little cooler, but it ended up being, I picked the instrumentation, and it ended up being like, there's a string section, we had like cello, and this is all MIDI. I was
going to ask if it was real musicians or MIDI, or how
that'd
it
be
worked.
fucking amazing. I was like, hey, and here's what we need to get the live band, and they're like, cool, can you do it on your computer? And I was like, yeah, I can do it on my computer.
Right.
But we picked the arrangement. It was a string section, electric bass, guitar, had heavy rocking guitar, and then like a couple cool synths that we were messing around with. But and then once we got the instrumentation, then it was kind of like watching, because there's like a story in the game, so I was watching what happens in the story and picking how to set the mood with the right instruments and where to change the instruments and everything. But like, for example, I guess I shouldn't say too much about the game since technically it's not out, but there's a puzzle part of this, and you have to fix this ship before you all die or something. And so we would go in and we listen to a bunch of different references for other games that have puzzles in them and puzzle music, and then that aren't at all space related or anything, but just, listen, and then we try recapitulating similar themes and motifs from all that music, but we do it in a space rock, kind of way. And yeah, that was kind of the process. And it was just, at the end of the day, it ended up being me and my computer with very little notation being done, because it was all, on Logic and Pro Tools, and then export, boom, boom, done. But then it gets hairy, because then you have to, because players can do things in virtual reality whenever they want. They can load into the game and go into the main world and just sit there for 4 hours and not progress. So it was a little tricky figuring out how to make each musical cue happen exactly when it needed to happen. But that's just on the that's like on the coding, and I had to work in hand with who was the guy who was creating the game and coding the game, so that I could be like, okay, this is where this is gonna have to start. And we had to do a lot of weird things too, like we had to create alternate endings for songs that are based off of actions that happen in the game. So like you click the button and then that cues the end of a section of a song to take us somewhere else, because it would be like an endless loop, and then they hit the button to get us to the next place, and that button activates the tag ending, and then we're in a new place. And just weird song form things like that I never had to think about in terms of anything. It's like, why would I have to write two endings in a weird way like that?
But that's what's fascinating to me, is that it's not as if you're going to see, I don't know, Beethoven's Fifth, and it has this pre-planned wave that's been there for centuries. Mm-hmm. The way it starts, middle, and the end. In your case, you're composing music that has alternate endings, alternate middles, if somebody does decide to just sit there for 4 hours and not, like you said, progress or make any actions. And I'm fascinated by this aspect. And I'm also fascinated by the fact that my podcast is now a part of my musical life. This is part of my composition. I'm talking instead of playing saxophone, but this is an aspect of my personal virtual reality that's creating a composition that will be involved in my architecture, of my music. And I've never done a video game, and it sounds like you didn't notate it. And the reason I brought that up is I'm having a music professor, Dr. Elliot McKinley, on, and he's finding a lot of his music students, they don't read music, nor do they write it anymore.
I do it for my personal stuff. I have to do it for my personal stuff because I want to line everything up, and it's like a set in stone band, and I got all my parts, and that's just the best way to do it for me that way. But when it's like something that has like all these different, and it's just so much easier to play the note on your keyboard and listen to it there. And if no one's going to be, it's really, for me, if no one's going to be reading the music, I don't need to write the music. And it's me and my partner in that, so it's like, I don't know, all the sections, I don't got to write it out for you, or I'll just tell you the sections. But also there's something else that I want to say.
So while you're thinking, Drum, one sort of overlying theme, whether it's the restaurant business or the music industry or what have you, the healing industry, the plant medicine industry, what's it like when you do a project like this? And you don't have to give us numbers unless your heart leads you. Are you signing contracts? Are you doing it just, hey man, this is just kind of fun, I want to do this, or anything in between? What's going on there?
Well, with video game stuff, because we've had to reach out through so many different avenues, and the process to creating a whole entire fledged game is such a long process. We've had a lot of different ways of going about like writing music for games and doing the sound design and everything. And I think we have published 2 games. This one that's coming out and another one that's also set to come out. So they're not published yet, but they're like in the works. But in total, during pandemic, we were working on 10 games.
Wow.
And it was like out of that sample size of 10 games. And the process to finding all these games is, either word of mouth, which is rarer, but mostly just browsing every internet site that I can see that has anything related to game dev jobs, anything like that. And out of those 10, 2 are continuing right now. And for them, we signed contracts, yeah. But for the other people, because we had jumped on board so early, like for all 8 other people, we kind of, I'm like, okay, we're going to do this stuff and we'll give you a track. We'll give you a couple and then let you know that we're like doing the job and you're going to want our services. But like, we're not going to put in hours and hours and hours of work on something that at the end of the day can wait until you're finished with that game and we can just put the score to it at the end. So like when it comes to that stuff, yeah, I was all just kind of like, yeah, we'll give you a song or 2, get you some demos for some sound design. And then when you're ready and you can actually pay us, let us know. And then that's why we're working on 2 projects now.
Yeah, it's just intriguing to me. I had this young keyboard player, Danae Greenfield, on last week, and she's on a Grammy nominated record with John Legend, if you know who he is.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, she got paid $100.
Wow.
It was a session gig that she did, and the studio said, yeah, would you come in and record this part? We'll give you $100. And she said, yeah, man, of course. I mean, we've all done this. Yeah. It seems that the world is shifting to this streaming reality where we're all creators for hire instead of, in the old days, I don't know, think of Friends, that show Friends, or Seinfeld or something, where if you made a hit TV show, you could pretty much live on it for the rest of your life if you wanted to, with residuals and so forth and royalties. But now it seems like we're and including in my world, in my generation, we're, hey, here's $500, can you play a saxo on this? I'm like, sure. And then you never see anything else.
Yeah.
Grammy or Oscar or whatever, you don't really see any compensation. So it sounds like what you're saying is pretty similar in the game.
Oh yeah, world. Totally. And in terms of, but also it's just because we're just in terms of like having a real solid release that will really help us in the future. Like we don't have that under our belt. We have 2 projects that are almost out and they are looking awesome. But it's not that we have them out yet. And I'm hoping that like once these 2 games come out, we'll have a leg to stand on and people will be able to judge our work for what it is in terms of video games. And like it's been interesting because we're doing film and everything. There's some overlap there. So like usually it's like, well, here's references for film stuff we've done and here's a few video game references when we're reaching out to gaming people, and yeah, I don't know, it's definitely like, not the best. It should be, here's a contract, here's exactly how much you're going to get here, and done, boom, boom, get it done. But no, it's usually, so far my experience has not been that.
And also it seems that, let's say, I mean, in your 20s, you have a certain amount of arrogance and you say, well, I need, $20,000 to do this VR project with you or whatever it is. All right. We're just hypothetical here.
Yeah.
They'll say, all right, then fuck off. We'll just find somebody else. And they probably will.
Did I say 20? I meant $5.
But right. So, yeah, right. What's the scariest thing that ever happened to you? I did a gig and won a Grammy and made $100 for it.
Yeah, jeez, that's wild.
It's wild, but it's the world that you're growing up in. Unfortunately, it is the world
for hire, and I'm kind of like a byproduct of this. Like it's one world that I'm growing up in, but like I have been influenced by it as I go because like it seems like all my jobs are things for hire. I mean, ideally, I guess a lot of people are like that, but I feel like I'm setting myself up so that my job can allow, hopefully, for this kind of market where it's like, oh, we need you for this. Oh, I do that. We need you for this. Oh, I do that. Oh, I need you for this. Oh, I do that.
It's super obvious to me and hopefully to everybody listening that you're incredibly talented. And there was a video on your Instagram, maybe from 5 or 6 posts ago. Do you remember that one? You're in the front of frame. You have a friend up here in the corner over here, depending on how you look at it. I may drop that in.
Yeah, go ahead.
So people get a little taste of what you're doing musically. But it seems to me that we have a choice. And I don't know about your stepdad, what kind of money he's making from streaming. I can give you my experiences and other experiences of people I've been talking to. It's just yes, we've got to figure out something, because I feel like everybody's being asked to give away all of their creations, and not just music, but just in general,
for sense, and not even sense is the thing. And
right. It's the 0.007% cent.
Right. And it's funny seeing how the change, it's been such a quick change over the last 5-10 years, the difference that from going to streaming. And it's interesting seeing how all my friends, I'm in a young age group, and they're all hustling, bustling, and trying to make their music work right now. And not that nobody else is, but it's kind of like watching them adapt and watching them try to play the market, and what tactics they end up using to try to play the market are kind of illuminating on what the market is doing and its effect on the people. I find people are having to focus, and they've always had to do this, but they focus so much time on not the music, because they got to get on the playlists, and they got to do, there's a lot of it seems like, I wonder if there's more steps now than there were before the streaming thing took over.
Oh, absolutely. 100%, Drummond.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we're being asked to do as artists, I think in general, any content creator, remaining relevant, posting on social media, and making sure you hit all of social media. And
it's not about the music anymore so much as it's about the person and the music and the personality of the music.
And how many likes did you get on that Instagram video?
Damn, I gotta change my whole vibe. Hold on, let me get some sunglasses quick. You gotta be yeah, check it out.
That would have been cool. I've actually, with this podcast, I've decided to settle into being just an old jazz fuck or an old musician fuck. And I get to just let people hear me chat with other folks, and that's good enough for me. But it's my manager's like, you got to put a post up about your podcast, and you got to create a page. And I was like, why don't you do that? And he goes, no, you got to do it, man. And it's just interesting, because I'm doing all that. I started Instagram for my podcast, and I'm going to do a Patreon and get it up on YouTube, but it's just Jesus, yeah, nice. But I just want to just smoke weed and play my saxophone,
Yeah.
Like I did for the last 30 years. Yeah, exactly. So I guess in a way, because I feel like I know you, I guess I'm asking is what's your impression? What's your advice? I kind of asked you this before our break, but what does it look like from, if you're looking through your window or looking out your window, and I'm looking out my window, and mine is, 60 years in business, and yours is 25 years. What does it look like, in 5-10 years? Yeah.
That's a good question. I like that question, because the thing that keeps me going.
Is that the only question you liked?
So far, yes. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I loved all the questions.
Tough crowd.
I think for me, the most important thing is to keep defining music, or keep learning about music and defining it in some sort of relation to God. And I don't mean the big man upstairs. I just mean some divinity, and using music as, just some piece of connected mathematical vibes. Because using music to using music to channel God. And I wasn't raised religiously. So when I say God, I don't mean some God. I just mean using it to try to channel the truths about the universe, and smoke weed and fucking play your guitar with that drone and fucking see what the hell just 2 notes does. and see what the hell like 3 notes does, and just sit there and do that. And then I think if I can do that, one, I have to make sure that I'm still having fun though. But I think I'll always have fun trying to figure that kind of stuff out. But like just getting lost in my head, and that's a big one actually, because it is getting lost in my head. Because I'm coming up with so many ideas about God and about music, and they could all be so garbo and absolutely mean nothing. But I know I'm not a stupid person, and I'm like and I can like rationalize things and build kind of a lore codex in my mind of music and its relation to the universe. That's what it really is for me. It's like building this book in my head of just like how music is related to everything, and then also loving that. And that's what it looks like for me. I think that if I can keep doing that, then no matter what gig I have, I will enjoy it. And if it's music related or audio related, I should say, not music, audio related. That's what it looks like for me. Just trying to maintain that mentality, because maybe 10 years from now, it's not that at all. And I don't want to be doing this and I'm hating it and everything. But I think if I relate it to the universe and my spiritual enlightenment, I'll be better in the future.
Absolutely. Drummond, what a beautiful answer to a somewhat methodical question. And I had this gentleman, Nikki Hamid, who is about 80. He was born in 1941 on the show. He's from New Zealand. And so, that's 800 times your age, right? But he was saying the same thing. We do it for love. We do it to connect to the universe. And he doesn't necessarily like the word enlightenment, but you can substitute it for, ascension or awareness.
Yeah. I guess I don't mean enlightenment. I don't think we'll hit that, but
it's
try.
But we can get lost in terms. And when I had the medicine woman on, she was saying, I'm not a shaman, I'm a medicine woman, and enlightenment or ascension can mean different things for different people. And that's important that we don't exclude people. And the most important thing, I mean, when you're talking to an 80-year-old wizard from New Zealand and he is saying, just love what you do and love from your heart. And you're like, oh, okay. That's all I get. Well, what about the contract? He's like,
yeah, right.
Don't worry about the contract. You just create and do what you love to do.
But that's all I'm worrying about.
Right. Well, he super believes that we shouldn't worry, even in the troubledness that we're in with the politics and the pandemic. But I'm not saying that's easy, but but asking him questions, I was like, I don't know, sir. What what do you think? What's your take? Excuse me, everybody. But it's beautiful. I had a feeling that I was going to get that version of you, Drummond, and I really appreciate you going in that direction, because it is the thing that's most important, is that we just keep enjoying and loving and connecting, whether to the universe or God, as you said, whatever that means for people, or source, or the light, or higher power, or whatever.
The process of learning and gaining knowledge and knowing that you're so small and you'll never know anything.
Okay, Drummond, right on. That's correct. And it's, as somebody who has a contrast with an almost 100-year-old neighbor, and then talking to Drum in his 20s, and Maya, who's also 26, and then talking to Nikki, who's 80, and then Peter Roth is coming on, he's 78. And it's interesting that there has been a flow and a connection with everybody, saying that there's no point in doing something if you're not enjoying yourself, and it doesn't make any sense. Totally. And
it doesn't.
I've done stuff for money and it's been miserable, and I probably didn't do a good job. I don't really know, because I don't go back and judge it, but it's hopefully, if things go in the right direction, money won't be even in our lives. We will just do things for each other because we love each other. I'm not saying I know that to be true, but maybe, wouldn't that be nice if we just did stuff? That would be so
nice. Yeah. Get rid of money. But I don't even know if, as a concept, I think right now, what money is right now is not too good.
Has it ever been good?
I don't know, because I haven't been anywhere other than where I've been now and when I was alive. And from when I've been alive, it's not been good.
Right.
But I think the concept of money, I think there could be a way where it's like it means a little bit less, but it like, because how do you? There's got to be something. No, this is at the end of the day. If I need to eat, I can't go to the grocery store and say, "I'll play you a sweet song."
Right. Right, man. I'll write a song for you, man.
Yeah.
If you give me some food.
Yeah, I'll take those Fruit Loops, please.
But on the dark side of the moon, the reality is that's what musicians are being asked to do. Hey, if you put your music on my streaming service,
right.
people will hear it and you'll be grateful. And I'm like, yeah, I am grateful, but your check for, $1.89 is not going to put any food on my table.
Yeah, exactly.
So Drummond, in conclusion, although I think you already covered this, I've been asking people, unrelated to anything that we've talked about already or related, is there a message you want to get out to the world? Is there something that you want people to hear, or anything like that, like wise words or not wise words or provocation?
I don't know, man. I'm only 25. What could I say to all you beautiful listeners out there? That would be I don't know, listen to more music and I guess play more music. It's kind of it, honestly. Don't hate people.
Even Donald Trump?
Don't hate him. He's out. He'll be gone. And even if he causes a terrible, 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 and all the death and destruction, you're only doing a disservice to yourself to actively dislike anybody. And if you have to, you can just put him out of your mind too. I mean, he kind of can't. He's a hard one.
Right.
You kind of can't. But let's say 2 years from now, you can put him in the back of your mind and you don't have to give him any energy. No, fuck Trump. Fuck that. Fuck that.
Drummond sins or whatever.
I do. Everybody except for that guy.
All right. Can I just say two things that you can totally bail if you want and we can leave, but I just want to say two things because they were on my agenda. One is that I'm making a comic with my ex-boyfriend Carlo. I don't know if you guys have met.
Cool.
And it's going to be like Peter and the Wolf. So there's going to be a saxophone in the comic. It's going to meet a clarinet player or a violin player. And then it's going to meet, maybe a drummer and then maybe a singer. And it's going to be going through the woods. And we're talking about going on a riverboat, so it gets on the riverboat and meets other people. And right. And so I'm thinking I'll compose music that'll go in the text bubbles, right? And so it can be played.
Oh, cool.
And,
I love that idea.
Right, and maybe have a digital version where, a person or a kid can hit and it'll play the music that's in the, instead of text. What do you think of that idea? I'm kind of bouncing an idea off you here.
I love that idea. I feel like the target audience would be a little older, because it'd be people who are practicing and writing music and also want to kind of have a different experience where it's like a conversation between this thing that you're reading. It's a different art experience. But it seems like with the comic medium, it's kind of for younger kids, which, I mean, I know comics aren't for younger kids. I know that. But I feel like to have for the little kids, if they just heard music in that, they'd be like, but if maybe for there could be a version where it's paired with words, where it's the person is speaking a melody that happens to be in the key or the pitches that the sax is playing or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking about how the young kids would take that. But I think anybody above, let's say 17, would really enjoy that. I think it's a cool experience. I want to hear what two people would say in just music on a comic. And then you get to be both voices. That's pretty cool. Or you play with a group. See, that's the way to do it, of course.
Right. And so at the very end, everybody plays the piece together that we've composed throughout. That's the idea. But
cool.
And also I'm not going to be I don't really do that kind of music anymore that I did 10, 20 years ago. I mean, it would be like da 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 da, right? And the other person says da 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 da. It'll be very, very, just very nice and pretty. And,
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. You got to have one character go a little crazy.
oh yeah, I'll have my Susanna character. Should be the crazy one.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I'm just kidding. So, and then the other thing is that when there's a little like controversy. I think I was 26. Some of my friends think I was 29. I decided that I was going to compose a suite my entire life. So when a classical composers write a suite, there's different sections that can be played back to back. So it was going to be when I was 50, but that didn't work out. So when I'm 60, I'll play every composition from when I was 26 until I was 60 back to back, because in my mind, I've been composing this suite.
Wow.
And
then you'll turn 70 when you finish.
or whenever I die, right?
Or I mean, even playing them back to back, that's got to take a while.
Oh yeah, right. Ha ha ha. Okay, all right. Sorry. All right. I missed that. But you're right. Yeah, it'll take it wouldn't take 10 years. I actually did a calculation. I think it would take, if we did 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I think it takes 10 days. But then it depends if people improvise or whatever and how long those improvisations are. But I'm very into the fact that I've been writing the lifelong suite, but it's just
that is cool.
It's one of those things that you think about. All right, Mr. Kincannon, Mr. Drummond, what's your full name? Drummond Louise?
Drummond L. Dominguez-Kincannon.
Now
That's me.
My nephew's name is Maximilian Moore D'Angelo. And I said, wait until you check out Drummond's full name, man. He's like, whoa, cool.
That's great.
So, all right. Thank you for being on, Drummond. I love you, and give my love to your family, and take care of yourself. Okay, brother? All right.
You
Peace
too.
to you. All right, man.
Yeah.
You too.
See you soon. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Constant Constance. Tune in every week for new conversations. And if you want even more, check out Andrew's Patreon for more exclusive content and additional conversations. Hosted and produced by Andrew D'Angelo. Edited and mixed by Lucy Little. Original music by Andrew D'Angelo and Maximilian Moore D'Angelo. Intro is Henrietta Weeks. Thanks so much. See you next time.
You
Beautiful.
you fucking rocked it. Like
You
she
killed
doesn't
it.
she doesn't know she says podcast, right? Like she doesn't even